Mathematics, physics and chemistry, they play a very important role in biology. Sound that is produced by the larynx, it is something related to physics. Which area the corona is spread more, all that is nothing but based on statistic and mathematical observations. So what is the fundamental unit of life? It is cell. Hello everyone, a warm welcome to today's session on the bridge course for first PUC or the 11th standard. I'm Dr. Divya, Biology faculty, Vidhyaashram Pre-University College, Mysore, Temple of Excellence. So in this session, we shall study what the significance of biology is and how biology is very important when it comes to studying physics, chemistry as well as mathematics, or in other terms, we shall see how physics, chemistry and mathematics is very important in biology. So we all know that once you step into your biology stream soon after your 10th standard, that is wherein when you choose PCMB as your combination, you'll have lot of confusions, right? You will love biology subject and you would want to study that more, and you would have chosen PCMB because there was biology in it. And not just you, when I was of your age, I have wondered, I have chosen PCMB because I love biology. But how nice it would be if only biology was there for me to study, right? So most of you have that thought. But we shall see why biology is always clubbed with physics, chemistry and mathematics. So why? Because biology plays a very important role, or in other words, I can say mathematics, physics and chemistry, they play a very important role in biology. Without that, biology is not possible. So earlier in the prehistoric times, like people, they used to study biology as natural philosophy. So during natural philosophy time, only when the external structure of the organism or the morphology of the organism was given importance, at that time only biology was enough. But nowadays, there are a lot of advancements when it comes to biotechnology, genetics and all that. And different streams of medicine, dental, so for all those things, this physics, chemistry and mathematics, everything plays a very important role. So we shall see how they are important with biology. That is why biology is always clubbed with physics, chemistry and mathematics as a combination for the PUC. So first we'll see why physics and biology, they are clubbed together, because physics, it is one of the subjects that provide the basis for biology. So without space, matter, energy and time components, these are the things that make up the day-to-day daily life of a living organism, depends on the space, matter, energy and the time. So without these things, living organisms, it is difficult for them to survive. So therefore, or it is difficult for them to exist. They would not exist at all. That is why physics is very important. So we shall see some of the examples how physics is applicable in biology. So physics helps us to explain how bats use sound waves in order to navigate in the dark. So as a biologist or as a person who loves biology, we know that bats, they usually come out in the dark. And when you go out of your house at night just to gaze at the stars, or in the late evenings once the sun sets, then you can see swarms of bats, right? Why do they always come out only in the dark and the rest of the time they are hidden? It is because for them to navigate easily. Why? Because in the morning, there is lot of sounds, the sounds of the traffic, the sounds of the people, industry, lots of noise pollution. So it is difficult for the bats to fetch food. So therefore, that is why they navigate in the dark. And bats, they do not have vision, that is, they cannot see. They travel based on the sound. So how do they get their food? Whenever an insect is making a sound, at that time the vibrations that is produced by the insect, it will reach the bats through air. That is how it will grasp the vibration, and then it will come to know at what distance the insect is there. So their physics is applied there. So that is how physics is applied. So also how the wings of the insects, they give the ability to move through the air. So insects, they fly by flapping their wings. So the upward and the downward movement of the wings helps the insect to push through the air pressure and flies. That is how physics is also important here. So here also physics is applied, and also in case of certain laws and theories that come in physics, the best example is the law of thermodynamics. So we'll study about that later. And also there is a scientist whose name is Feynman. So that particular scientist, he was the first person to prove that biology helps scientists come out with the law of conservation of energy. So this is nothing but the law of thermodynamics that we study in physics. So this law of conservation of energy also gave some ideas to the scientists how in a food chain, how the food travels from one organism to other organism. During that time, how much energy is lost. That is how physics help biologists or the scientists to gain new information regarding the flying of the insects, the navigation of the bats, the conservation of energy in nature, all these. So we'll study in detail by taking different examples. So physics is applicable in ecosystem. Ecosystem or biodiversity is something that we see in our daily life because we live in a biodiversity. We live within an ecosystem which is nothing but biology, wherein different life forms exist. But ecosystem, have you ever wondered, in an ecosystem you have different organisms living. So the plants, how do they get their food? From the sunlight and from the soil, right? And these plants are fed by the herbivorous animals, and those herbivorous animals are fed by the carnivorous. And the carnivorous animals, when they die and decompose, the earthworms or the microorganisms or the other insects or the microbes that are present in the soil will consume them. So when they consume them, it will get converted into organic matter, that is either vermicompost or certain fertilizers that are organic fertilizers that are useful for the plant. So again the plants will use them. This is how the cycle is continuing. Therefore here what the law of thermodynamics says is that, or the law of conservation of energy says is that, energy is neither created nor destroyed, but it can be transformed from one state to another. Here it is transformed from one state to another, but there is no creation of energy. What is there? That is only being utilized. It is transformed from one state to another, and it is utilized by all the other organisms, and from where the energy was derived, the energy is given back to them. It is not destroyed, but it is given back. Again the plants will utilize it, again the herbivores will utilize, again the carnivores will utilize. Like that the food chain or the cycle of energy flow, it continues. So energy of sunlight, it can be converted into energy of food and heat in the plants, and this food and heat that is converted in the plants, it is eaten, it moves to the animals, herbivores, when they eat them. So this is how it continues. And there is also one more law called as no transfer of energy occurs unless and until it is accompanied by degradation or dissipation of energy from concentrated to dispersed form. Here again what happens? The energy cannot be utilized as such. It has to be converted into a decomposed form or a degradation or a decomposed form, and that energy in the form of food will be consumed by the animal. So that is the second law. So also the transfer of energy from one organism to another, it is accompanied by degradation and loss of major part of food energy as heat. And also what the law of conservation of energy states that, or the second law, there is what it states that the energy that is being created, say for example a plant uses sunlight as food. So that sunlight which is converted in the plant in the form of energy, a little bit of energy will be lost. When it goes to the animals, when the animals consume the plant, In the animals, again, a little bit of energy is lost. So like that, each level of the food chain, a bit of the energy will be lost. So that is, it is given back to nature. So that is the law of thermodynamics. So the law of thermodynamics that is there in physics is applicable in the ecosystem in this form. So what I had explained. So next is sound production. So we talk about larynx, voice box, our mouth, our tongue and all that. That is something related to biology. But the sound that is produced by the larynx, it is something related to physics. What happens? Human voice, we know that it is produced in the larynx. And larynx is a small part that is present in the throat region. So when air from the lung passes, so when you talk, air from the lung, it will pass through the tightened cords that is present in a throat and the vibration is produced. The best example I can give you is, you know that in your house, your mother prepares chapati. So for that she used tongs, right? So that tongs, just beat the tongs one to a hard surface and listen to the sound. You can't see the sound, but you can feel the tongue vibrating. So based on the number of vibration, the sound will be formed. So that is nothing but how? That is physics. So that is physics. That is sound. In air, it will travel. That vibration will create the sound which will travel. And the same thing you should understand that in vacuum, where there is no air or in the absence of air, that is in vacuum, sound will not be produced. So all this is nothing but physics. So human voice is produced in the larynx, and when air from the lungs, they pass through the tightened cord that is there in the throat, a vibration is produced. So that vibration is the one that produces the vocal sound. So that vibration is the one that produces the vocal sound. So next important example where physics is applicable in biology is when we talk about the movement of organisms. So organisms, the best example is the movement of bacteria. So bacteria, they are very, very small. They are not visible to our naked eye. They are microscopic organisms. So it is difficult for such small organisms to move. I'll tell you based on the example of an ant, right? We can walk faster and run faster than the ant. Though the ant, for its size, it looks like as if it is very quick, but still we are the ones who can travel for a longer distance with great time, with great speed, right? But these smaller organisms, that is the bacteria, they cannot travel very fast. It is difficult for them. So at that time, viscosity will help. So bacteria, viscosity, I'll give you an example. So say, for example, bacteria is dwelling in water. So in water, what happens is the viscosity of water. So viscosity, when in a liquid, there are different layers that are present. So when the layers, they oppose each other, what happens is the movement of the organism will occur. So that is what happens in bacteria. So this process continued for many years, and that is when the bacteria, they started to develop flagella in them. That is, in this case, what happens? Viscosity is the one which plays a dominant role, and because of this particular thing, the bacteria, they evolved to develop flagella. So if you see bacteria under the microscope nowadays, you can see flagella with them. So the flagella are the organs. So you can see flagella. So the flagella are the organs which help the bacteria to move in the water. So to push and move the water, like how we use our hands while swimming, right, to push the water backwards so that we can move front. Just like that, the flagella also helps the bacteria to move. So earlier bacteria, their movement was because of viscosity. So viscosity is something, the term that comes in physics, and that is why bacteria, they evolved to form flagella. So let us now understand how chemistry is important in biology. So any organisms, if it has to form, first it needs to have an atom. From the group of atoms, it forms a molecule. Then the molecule forms a compound. The compound together, they form the organelles. The organelles together, they form the cells. The cells together, they form the tissue. The tissue together, they form the organs, and the organs together is collectively called as the organ system. So atoms is something that comes in chemistry. Say for example, I'll take the example of carbohydrate. So in carbohydrate, the chemical formula for carbohydrate, it is C6H12O6. So atom present in carbohydrate is it is. So carbohydrate, it is very important for a body. So there are some organelles in a body which produce these carbohydrates. The best example is the endoplasmic reticulum, which is the one which helps in the synthesis of the carbohydrate and all that. So here in the case of carbohydrate, what are the atoms that are present in carbohydrate? You have carbon, then we have hydrogen and oxygen. So this is the atoms. Now these atoms will form the molecules. What are the molecules? A collection of atoms. Now this is the formula, molecular formula of carbohydrate, wherein carbohydrate will have 6 carbon atom, 12 hydrogen atom and 6 carbon atom. I am taking the example of a simple monosaccharide here. So 6 carbon atoms, 12 hydrogen and 6 oxygen atoms. So together they will form the molecule to form the compound. What compound they have formed? They have formed the carbohydrate. Now this carbohydrate will form what? It will form the organelle. So what is the organelle there? It is the endoplasmic reticulum. So where is the endoplasmic reticulum present? It is present in the cell. So the organelle will form the cell. So what inside the cell we have the endoplasmic reticulum, the Golgi bodies, the nucleus and all those things, right? Ribosomes, all lysosomes, all those things. So these cells, so together all the cells, so one single cell. So together all the cells will club together to form a tissue. So these tissues are nothing but they will form the organs, be it the stomach, the liver, all that. And then they will form the organ system, that is the digestive system, the respiratory system. So, and finally they form the whole organisms. The best example, that is a human body. They will form the whole organism. So where did it start? It started from chemistry. That is, it started from an atom. So that is how chemistry is important in biology. And to know the molecular formula of this comes from chemistry. You will have to learn it from chemistry. So that is how chemistry is important in biology. So as I told you, atoms, they make molecules and molecules make compounds. And then these compounds, they form the organelles. Organelles, they form the cells. Then the cells, they form the tissue, and the tissue, they perform similar function to form the organ system or the organs, and the organs form the organ system, and then they form the multicellular organism. So it started from chemistry. And next we'll see how mathematics is applicable in biology. So mathematics, without maths there is no life. So how mathematics is applicable? So biologists, they use mathematics in order to understand how the bacteria or how the microorganisms move. So all that is nothing but geometry and all that. They use all that to understand how molecules move in and out of the cells. And not just that, if you need to choose your engineering stream in future, then mathematics is very, very important. Why? Because in engineering there is one separate section wherein you will study about environmental science. So at that time, all this is applicable. Mathematics is applicable. So biologists, in order to find out how the molecules of an organism or how the molecules move, say for example, or how the cells in the blood they move, or the blood cells, how they move through different organs, for all that mathematics is important. Not just that, ECG, where they record the heartbeat, there also they use this mathematics. Mathematics is being used there. And how bacteria, they move through the blood, that is in order to study that. So nowadays what can happen is, just by taking the blood sample and observing, you will get a mathematic, they'll apply something wherein, which is the whole process will take place in the computer itself, which is nothing but mathematically set. So that in that particular computer, everything will be recorded. How the bacteria, how fast will they spread, especially during infection, how fast will they spread, within which duration the patient should be treated. All that is nothing but mathematics that is applicable there. So how bacteria shuttle through blood vessels and how drugs get broken down in the body. So when we take a capsule or a pill when we are sick, so how do they, at what time will they dissolve in a body, at what time they will act, how will they act, which organ they will go and target, all that is nothing but mathematical expressions that they use. On mathematics is, that is how used in biology. And also to study the geometry, topology and other physical characters of the DNA. So we know that the era of biology changed in the 19th century when people came to know about DNA. And it was because of Watson and Crick. We know that DNA is a double helical structure. So that helical arrangement of DNA, so this structure, it is nothing but mathematicals, where exactly the turn takes place, how it is arranged, how it is twisted, all that is nothing but geometry is applied there. So geometry is applied, and also the topology, that is how they are connected, how the two strands are connected to each other. So all that, it is nothing but and the physical characteristics of the DNA, what are the compounds present in the DNA, so all that, for everything, what proteins they will produce, so everything is nothing but a mathematical expression. So to study all this, nowadays it is a computer based technology where mathematics is applied. So that is how mathematics is applicable in biology. So again, there are certain things wherein to design the experiment. So nowadays, you know that corona, from the past few years, it has made the people suffer a lot. So every time there would be a percentage, like in which country it is more, how many percentage of people are dying, how many number of people are dying, which area the corona has spread more, all that is nothing but based on statistic and mathematical observations that they do. So in order to design the experiments, including clinical trials, say for example for vaccination also, to do the clinical trials, do you think that they will go in search of thousands to thousands of people? No, few people they will do the trial, and based on that, based on the mathematical calculation, they will next start going forward in the clinical trials. That is what they do there. And also, in order to place the different parts of a cell, how it is placed, what is the position of the cell, what is the shape of the cell, and also how the cells together they form the organ system, and how they are placed, what is the shape of the hand, how the hands rotate, how the organs move, how the bacteria flows, how the blood cells travel. So everything, each and everything, it is nothing but mathematics. So when in terms of studying the disease and finding a cure for that also, mathematics is applicable. So that is how mathematics, physics and chemistry, they are useful in biology. So though you love biology, in spite of that, importance should be given to the other three subjects as well, because when you choose your next stream after your PUC, at that time you should not regret. So at least a little basic you should know about each of the subject. Okay. So next we shall see what are the changes in biology when comparing with that of 8th, 9th, 10th with that of 11th standard. So 8th, 9th and 10th also you had science, wherein everything in one textbook only. You had physics, you had chemistry, then biology, club, 3 of the subjects, club. Mathematics was separate. But once you reach your PUC, it is separate textbooks, wherein for physics you have separate, for chemistry separate, for mathematics separate, and for biology it is separate. So in biology, zoology and botany will be clubbed. Apart from that, the textbooks are completely separate. So what are the changes? So that is why whatever you have studied in your high school, it is a base for your PUC. So don't forget whatever you have studied, because the same thing, as far as we have seen, the same thing has carried forward to your first PUC and second PUC, but only a bit of an elaborated version of it. So we'll just, I want you to like brush up or remember what you had studied previously and what is there now when you enter into your first PUC, what will you expect in your biology textbook. So in the class 8th, you had crop production and management. So crop production and management, and the same thing, you have crop production and management. So if you need to know about crop production and management and all that, in your first PUC, you have the morphology of flowering plants, wherein you'll study, you should know about the structure of the flower, the anatomy of the flower, all that you should know. So here you will study about all these things, so which is helpful. So for this base, you studied here in crop production and management, you would have studied about cross pollination, about hybridization techniques and all that. So the same thing, in order to make you broadly understand, you will be studying about the structure of the flower, the anatomy of the flowering plants and all that. And also you have various other related to plants or botany. You have the plant growth and development. So all this is very, very important for the crop production. So you will understand that. So also in the previous chapter, like classes, in class 9, you had the fundamental unit of life. So here you had an idea about what fundamental unit of life is. So what is the fundamental unit of life? It is cell, right? So cell, again in detail, you'll be studying in the coming classes. See here you have again the whole thing, cell, which is the unit of life, a elaborated version you will study. Then you will study about the biomolecules. So there in the cell, there are the cells, there is the genetic material. Those genetic material will produce various amounts of compounds. So that compounds are nothing but called as biomolecules, which are used for various purposes in a plant or an animal. So you'll study about the biomolecules, then you'll study the cell cycle and cell division. So here in the previous year, that is in class 9, you had just studied the fundamental unit of life, a small portion about cell. But when you come to your first PUC, you will be studying in detail about it. So next, again you had life process. So this also again the same thing, you'll study life process, wherein you'll study the structural organization in plants and animals, then structural organization in animals. So all these in detail you will study. Whatever there you had like an introduction, in detail you'll be studying here. And also you'll be studying about digestion and absorption, then breathing and exchange of gases, so body fluids. So all these are nothing but life processes, because they are very important for the life of an organism to function well or to continue, right? Reproduction, so all that you will study here, be it respiration, be it photosynthesis in higher plants, then transportation, mineral nutrition, plant physiology, that is a whole unit which is the plant physiology. So also I wanted to tell you is, earlier in your high school, you didn't have units, but here you will have units, and under each unit, for each unit, they would have given set a theme, wherein the first theme would be called as diversity in the unit, living world, diversity in the living world, wherein you'll have different chapters which belong to this particular theme. But earlier it was nothing like that. But still, what I just before you come to your class, it is good if you just recall whatever you studied in your high school, because most of the things are same here. It is just a continuity of those things. That is why. So again in class 8, you would have studied the about microorganisms, the advantage and disadvantage. This again you have it in your second PUC, that in detail about that. So and also you had conservation of plants and animals again in your first PUC. So here conservation of plants and animals. Then moving to 9th standard, you studied how diverse the living organisms are in the nature or in the ecosystem, and also how these organisms they reproduce. So this is also a chapter that comes under the life processes. So how organisms reproduce. So again here you will be studying the different things that is related to environment. So here environment, and again while moving to second PUC, you will study the ecosystem, the biodiversity and all that, which you have studied in your earlier classes. But in first PUC it is not there, but in second PUC you will have all those things. And next you have reproduction in animals here. Then again, when you study reproduction in animals, first you need to know the structure of the animals, right? The structure of the animals, which you will be studying in for first PUC. So there you studied reproduction. Here you have structure of the animals. Then the structural organization in animals, all those things you have here. And you'll like when it comes to life processes, again you have studied tissues in your previous classes. And then here again you have in your 10th standard you have studied control and coordination. So then heredity and evolution. This is also one more important chapter which you will be studying in your second PUC. You have this heredity and evolution. There also you will be studying about Mendelian genetics. But first PUC it is not there. But in second PUC you will study. And also about health and diseases. So you have about health and diseases also a chapter which you have studied in your class 9th. That is, why do we fall ill? So in detail you will be studying about that in your first PUC. Not just that, about natural resources. Again, this comes under biodiversity. So all this you have studied. So all these sources, natural resources or sources of energy, that is again there in your second PUC, but it is not there in the first, but it is there in the second PUC. So first PUC is completely dependent on the life processes, that is, be it the structure of the organism. First they have discussed about the cell, then they have studied about the biomolecules, what are the different cell cycles and how cell division will take place, then what is the how transport, that is transport of food or water, occurs in the plants, and what are the different mineral nutrients that are utilized by the plants, then how photosynthesis occurs in higher plants, then respiration in plants. All these are life processes itself. So all these, and plant growth and development, so all these you will be studying. Then you have digestion and absorption, which again, when it comes to digestion and absorption, you'll be studying about the life process of animals. So breathing and exchange of gases, then body fluids and the circulation, how it takes place. So I remember in your 10th standard, you have studied about life process. In life processes, you had studied excretion, digestion, then respiration, all that, right? The same thing in detail you'll be studying here in class 11th or in your first PUC. In detail you'll be studying, that is breathing and exchange of gases. There you had just introduction, a little bit for you to understand that what it is, what the process is. But here in detail you will have everything, and the excretory products and how their elimination takes place. So you had studied about kidney and all that in 10th. And locomotion and movement, then again neural control and coordination. So it is the chapter 21 in first PUC. So neural control and coordination, it is here, control and coordination. So you can just refer this textbook before you refer your 10th standard textbook for neural control and coordination before this particular chapter starts, that is neural control and coordination, because there all the basics will be there. And chemical coordination and integration, all these in detail you will be studied. So here you just had one chapter, control and coordination. You can see here they have split it. So they have split it under neural control and coordination. Again, how the chemical coordination will take place in order for the signals to be passed to the brain through the nerve cells, all that you will be studying here in detail. So this was how your chapters, they have changed. So remember, in this particular first PUC, you have different units, and under the unit you have different chapters. But remember, whatever is there in the first PUC, you would have studied about it, or you at least the basics in 8th, 9th and 10th. So just go through the textbook before you get into the class. So this is about the different topics that you have, study under biology, or how this particular 11th standard textbook is related to that of 8th, 9th and 10th. So I hope you understood this session well. So give importance to all the subjects, not just you love one subject and don't neglect the other, because how I told you, everything is, it is just like they go hand in hand. So if you need to understand one subject, the other subjects also you need to know at least a little bit of it. So give importance to all the subjects. So I hope you have understood this session well. So we shall meet in the next coming sessions. See you then. Thank you.